Welcome to Deal Closers with Anette, Talie, where we focus on the deals. Our guests are real estate closers who will share in detail the whole process from finding a deal to closing it, as well as strategies and tips to help you do the same. Here is your host, Anette, Talie.
Welcome to another episode of Deal Closers. I am your host, Anette, Talie, and today I have my dear friend, Jay Helms. Welcome, Jay.
Good morning.
Good morning. I am very excited to have you today because we know each other for about a year now. I joined his group. He has an amazing Facebook group, W2 Capitalist. And then I joined his mastermind, and it has changed my investing career in the last year. So, it's very exciting to have you today here with me.
Awesome. That's incredible. And I will say you own the record because it is a virtual mastermind, right? So we're doing things like this and Zoom, but you own the record. You're the only mastermind member that I've actually ever met in person.
Oh, wow.
that doesn't live in Pensacola. So I've met a couple of them that are in the same PIG that I'm involved in, or same RIA. It's called a PIG here in Pensacola. But yeah, you have that title right now. So
awesome. Yeah, we vacation apparently in the same place. And so we arranged to meet each other this past Christmas. So it was very nice to meet you in person finally.
Yes, you and your family and everybody, right? And then we went to the arcade.
Yes, it was so nice to see our kids play. I have to tell you, that was so cute.
It was very cool.
So let me tell you a little bit about Jay. He has served the information technology industry since 2001 with most recent transition and focus on growing a direct sales unit and a portfolio of $50 million in ARR for a global cybersecurity firm. Jay has earned several educational accolades: BS Computer Science, Jacksonville State University in 2001, Master's Business Administration, New York Institute of Technology in 2005, and Certified Project Management Professional, Project Management Institute in 2008. To produce a record and seamlessly driving complex projects to completion while balancing tight resources and time constraints. A savvy relationship builder with a proven track record of forging partnerships and driving account performance to the next level. Wow.
That's a lot. I need to clean that up because I don't do, I know I just sent that to you earlier, but I don't do project management anymore. That is gone out of my wheelhouse. Focus directly on sales and growing a sales team right now.
All right. Well, Jay started actively investing in real estate in 2014 with a mix of single and multifamily homes, and since has grown his real estate portfolio to over 320 units across 4 states. Recently, he has started giving back to the real estate community by hosting the movement at w2capitalist.com, where the mantra is earn, invest, repeat, and is helping every W2 employee realize they can build legacy wealth through real estate and investing and have a successful and fulfilling W2 job. Jay and his wife, Cassie, have a son and 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And I can attest to the fact that you help W2 people invest.
Yeah.
Because that's how I found you. And, in this past year, it has helped me a lot to have the support and of this group.
Yeah, you're an awesome testament to the group, right? And I would like to take full credit, but I can't because you take action, right? As you come in, you have a plan. Now you let us keep you accountable, right? But you take action, which is one of the biggest things that most people struggle with is just finding the courage to take action. You have all the courage. You just go and do it. So congratulations to you, right?
Thank you. And I think that's one of the things that make the difference. Like sometimes we get overwhelmed with all the things we want to do, but if you just take one thing and apply it, then it's going to take you places. And I think that's what I do. I just if I cannot do everything, I just take one thing that I can do and I just go with it. And then, when you figure it out, then you take the next thing and then you go with it.
Absolutely.
The Deal.
So, all right. So what deal are we going to talk about today?
So I think we should talk about the very first deal, because that has set off a, I don't know, spiral, if you will, into where we are today. And without that first deal, we wouldn't be here. But it's one of those things is once you get past that first deal, your mind takes a shift and says, okay, it's not as bad as I thought it was, right? And then you start getting into this competitive thing where how can I make this quicker? How can I be the guy the broker comes and brings the deals to, blah, blah, blah. So let's talk about the first deal. Is that okay?
That's perfect. So what
Okay.
type of asset, where is it located?
Yep. So it was a single family resident, and I'm going to talk in past tense because we sold it last February.
Okay.
So a year ago today. Now we ended up holding that thing for 4 years, but it was a
Okay.
single family asset, and it was in a part of town that was up and coming, right? And I'll get more into that in just a minute. But we found it on the MLS. It was actually an MLS property, but it was a foreclosure.
Okay.
So we reached out to the one of the brokers and agents that we ended up creating a relationship. I think we've done probably, it's in the teens, 14 or 15 deals with that same broker since then. He gave us some real good guidance. He knew kind of what we were looking for when going into it.
So did you find it like on Zillow and then gave it to him, or did he,
Yes.
found it for you and send it to you?
No, we found it, and then we went to him and said, "Hey, here's what we're looking for. Give us some guidance on can it rent for this much, blah, blah, blah." And so the purchase price, and a lot of people are going to think there's no way, but the purchase price on this house, now granted it was 600 square feet, right? It's one
But
bedroom.
what's it listed for first?
So it was a foreclosure. It was listed for 23,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
Did you get it for that price?
we did. Yeah. And it needed some repairs. I think we ended up spending about 9,000 on the total repair, which included a new roof, because you could go up into the attic and you can look up and you can see sky. So there was some issues with the roof. We just had it replaced, and then a lot of just cosmetic stuff, right? We did have some electrical issues. We had the biggest electrical issues. We had a main wire we had to replace, that basically fed to the house for the electrical piece. That was another costly expense. But after that, it was all cosmetic, paint, carpet, and we're good, right? The moment we had it available to rent, it rented for $600 a month, and it stayed rented until the time we sold it. Matter of fact, we sold it with our second tenant in there, right? So we held it for 3 years. One of our tenants stayed in there for 2 years. The next year, we got another tenant in there, and then we ended up selling it with that tenant in place.
Wow.
It was amazing first step for us, because, and we ended up selling it. So we ended up selling it for 50,000.
Oh, wow. So you made cash flow, killing cash flow for
Yes.
3 years, 4 years?
Yep. So it cash flowed I think it was like 325 a month, every month, because we didn't have a mortgage on it, right? And
Right.
the only thing that we were doing is we were going into this, we were very diligent about putting money back, because we didn't want to get caught with, oh, the furnace has died or whatever. And there were issues that came up, right? This is the first property that it was our first property period, but we learned that we didn't want to be property managers
Mm-hmm.
with this one. So we tried to manage it with us. We did get the call one day. I'm at work, and I got a call from the tenant saying, "Hey, I just got a call from the neighbor. They're telling me water's flooding out underneath the house. What do I do?" It's like, well,
Turn off the water.
turn off the water. She goes, "Well, I'm not there." I said, "Well, call the water company. They'll come do it for you or whatnot." And long story short, we ended up replacing all the plumbing in the house. Now, it
Oh,
wasn't very
wow.
expensive because it was a very small house, but it had some uh, tubing in there. And I don't want to say the wrong type, but it had some tubing in there that was known for issues. Matter of fact, insurance will not cover it anymore. And the reason why we had to replace it is because we renewed our insurance, and they wanted us to get a new inspection. And it came up on the second inspection Didn't come up in the first, which was weird, but it
That
came
was
up in
lucky,
the second one.
actually.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, but yeah, so it was first property that just got us really, that got our appetite wet, right? Then we
So, but
knew,
let me back up a little bit because we skipped the question of how did you get into real estate? Because you just didn't wake up one
yeah.
day and said like, oh, let's just buy a property.
Oh, I did. No, I didn't. So I was very fortunate enough to find, I know a lot of real estate investors talk about Robert Kiyosaki and his Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was very lucky to find that book, um, when, we were pregnant, or excuse me, my wife was pregnant with our first son, about 6 months into it. And that book just had such a phenomenal shift the way I think about building wealth and everything, because in that, and this is kind of what sparked the W2 Capitalist as well, was in that year we had our first son, we bought our first rental property. The company that I was a principal at, I'd been there for 10 years, was acquired. That acquisition was not going well, to say the least. So a lot of these things happened. So I started looking at, okay, we've done really good with this, property. Let's see how we can double down. Now, what led up to that was we were watching the HGTV flipping shows and we were getting all excited about this. And we tried a couple of different things. We tried to be wholesalers, quickly found out that's not our personality types, right? We're not those hustlers. I actually enjoy what I do. Uh, I just don't have a whole lot of time to, outside of work, to focus on anything else, right? Because I really want to be there present for the family, and that sort of thing. So this kind of transitioned us into, buy and hold folks and outsourcing almost everything, right?
Right. And that's very important because I think a lot of people get into, real estate to, because they want freedom, financial freedom, and they want to spend time with their family, but they end up spending way too much time on the business and then neglect the family. And I think
Yeah,
that's one thing that you do good, that you have that commitment with your family,
yeah.
and you
Thank you.
focus that, and you schedule all your other activities at other times, and that's very important. That's one thing that I am trying to establish too,
Yeah,
because I love working the business.
yeah. It's
So
fun, isn't it?
I love, it's fun. So I
Yeah.
gotta focus on that. Okay, so you bought it for 23,000. You put 9,000 in repairs. Does that include the plumbing, or because you said that?
No, no. So the 9,000 was up front for us to get it rent ready. The
Mhm.
plumbing came afterwards. I think that was close to $2,500, maybe 2,000. But
Okay.
that was the biggest expense that we had, while we own the property. And I think it's very important too. Let's talk about this. So you talked about how do we pay for it, right? So we're getting into this game of real estate. We're trying to understand how it works, what banks are looking for.
Yeah, because you had to buy it cash,
We had to buy
right?
it
Because it
cash,
was
and
a foreclosure.
yep. Well, uh, it was a bank owned property, so it wasn't because it was a foreclosure that we had to pay cash for it. We had to pay cash for it because it was under 50,000, which is usually the minimum most banks will loan you for a
And
property.
probably it wouldn't pass inspection if it had a problem with the roof, right?
Well, yeah, yeah,
So if you cannot insure it, then you cannot finance it either.
yep, yep. That's true. That's true. I hadn't thought about that actually. But you're very much onto that. But the way we pay cash for it, again, we kind of just looked at this piece of property and we're like, all right, let's do this. Well, prior to that, because we knew we wanted to get into some of this stuff, we went ahead and opened a Heloc, which is a home equity line of credit, on our primary residence. And I did that way ahead of time, and it's paid off several times to just be able to have that cash sitting there. But I did that way ahead of time because I knew if we found a deal, that we were going to have to act very quickly, right? And I didn't want to have to go through the whole Heloc process and it be 30 days and this property sell on the market for another 30 days and potentially be gone.
Yeah, and
So
for the people that don't know what a Heloc is, can you explain it? Because I discovered the Heloc like when I was buying my third property, and you
yeah.
were smart. You got it with the first one.
Yeah. So a HELOC, home equity line of credit, you have to own your primary house, right? You don't have to own. It could be on most any property, but if it's, I'll tell you the way we did it. It was our primary residence, and it had appreciated some in value. We had owned it for, well, we weren't married at the time when I bought it. I don't know why I said that. Doesn't really matter. But I had owned it for 10 years, I think is what it was. So we had some equity in that, which is just untapped value, right? So the way we tap into that value is we go to the bank and say, hey, here's what we owe on the mortgage. And they have an inspector come out and or do an appraisal, not an inspector, but have an appraisal done on the property. And whatever that difference is, they'll typically issue you a home equity line of credit up to 80% of the value of the
80%.
home. Yep. So we had, I think 40 something around that, that was available to us. And what I love about a home equity line of credit is you're going to pay a small fee, probably $100, $200 a year to keep it open. But other than that, if it's not being used, it's very much like a credit card in that you're not being charged interest on it. Right.
And
So
the other advantage is sometimes closing is covered by the bank, like mine. I didn't
yes.
pay any money to get it. Some banks charge you a small amount,
Yep.
but compared to a closing, a refinance closing where you're going to spend like
Yes.
$10,000, this is such a better option.
Yes. And be sure if you go out and apply for a HELOC, make sure they go over this. They should go over this with you, but most of them are not going to charge you a closing fee as long as you keep the HELOC open for X number of years, right?
Correct.
Because they want to make sure they get
They get the
their
interest
closing fee
money.
some way. It's just not directly at.
Well, but they do have some prepayments also,
Yes.
penalties if you
Yeah.
close it. So if you find a better deal and you want to close it, you just pay the penalty.
Yep.
So there is the option. And also watch out for the interest because most of them are variable.
They are.
So you have
That's
to be
the other
aware of that.
thing. It's a very good point to make is that the downside of HELOC, while it is there for you to use instantly, that rate could adjust. And typically they start out higher anyway and what I'm comparing that to is a traditional mortgage, right?
Right.
So if you do a cash out refinance, you're going to have a lower interest rate, but you're going to be paying on that money from the time it closes, right?
Right. So you said that you wanted to be a buy and hold investor, but then you sell it. So tell us a little bit what was
Yeah.
that? Why did that happen?
Well, so it was off market. It wasn't listed. I listed it. So our amazing tenant, telling you this lady, she broke us in because she worked at a trade school, right? And she said, hey, do you mind if something happens like with the HVAC or anything like that, plumbing or anything, do you mind if I have students come over and allow them work because they've got to get so much work experience? I was like, no, I guess that's fine. I was like, but how does that work? She goes, well, you just have, if they had to buy parts, they had to buy parts. Essentially it's free labor. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
done.
Done.
So I leaned on that a couple of times. That worked out. And she was just always great. She always paid on time. She really showed us how tenants can be amazing. Right. But so I put it on the market after she moved out. And then she moved out she got a roommate or something like that, moved across town, whatnot. And then afterwards, put it on the market, had it under contract as a group, a family that was out of town, and they backed out of it eventually. So we just turned around and rented again. And lo and behold, one day I get a call from a guy. He says, hey, I'm wondering if you're still interested in selling this property. Now, this was 6 months after I had taken the listing down, right? And have a new tenant in there. Things are going great. And I just said, I hadn't really thought about it. Made me an offer. And he made me an offer for 50,000.
And what did you list it for when you listed it?
It was right at 50,000.
Okay.
Right. And I was doing a for sale by owner because my realtor was telling me there was no way I was going to get 50,000 for it. And I was like, well, if I'm not getting 50 grand for it, I'm not selling it. Right. So Like 1 month later, he pays cash, closes it. And the reason why I did that is I 1031 exchanged that money into a fourplex, right? So we went from $600 a month in gross revenue to $2,200 a month in gross revenue.
Wow.
Yeah.
And everything you did it with a Heloc.
Yeah, started with a Heloc.
That
right?
is such a great, like, I sometimes say, like, I wish I knew more about house hacking, when I started.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
this is a great strategy. If you already own a home and you cannot do house hacking, you can get a Heloc on your primary home and then use that money to invest.
yeah.
Just make sure that it's a good investment,
Just make sure,
that it
yeah, it meets
pays.
the criteria, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it all starts with taking action, and that's one of the biggest things that I've tried to press upon myself, especially here recently. We're into the new year when this is being recorded, is just take action, right? I was going to say just do it, but I didn't want to give props to that shoe company. But anyway, but yeah, you just got to take action, right? And for those if folks who are listening, if like, well, I'm never going to use a HELOC, I'm never going to find a property in that is going to fit my criteria, blah blah blah. Doesn't matter. Just go do it. It's going to cost you $100-200 a year to keep this thing active, and you're going to want that cash on hand when you do find that deal, right? So just take it. Just
Yes,
do it.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Expert tips.
Jay is going to give us 3 expert tips on how to invest while still working at your W-2 job.
Yeah. So you just want 3 because there's a ton of them.
Give me your best ones and then maybe a bonus.
All right. So tip number 1, if you're married or if you have a significant other, tip number 1 is you got to get your spouse on board. That's it. And that is listed as number 1 for a reason, right? Because and I'll say this, the president of your fan club is going to be an integral part of making all this work. The last thing you need in your relationship is for some sort of investing money. The divorce lawyers or whoever has done the study, money is usually the number 1 leading for divorce. If they're not on your side, your number 1 job to get started in real estate investing is to convince your other half. That's it.
Yeah, and not only money, but time, because you have to
Yes.
invest time.
Yep. Which leads to number 2, right? Is be ready to alter your lifestyle, right? Less TVs, less nights out, earlier bedtimes, earlier alarms. I'm a big fan of getting up early before the rest of the house wakes up, because that means I've got about 2 hours or so before I have to get focused on the W-2. So I wake up and do something I'm extremely passionate about. And I have that me time, so to speak, in the morning. And then I'm off to my W-2, which I'm now, my mindset is, all right, I just spent 2 hours building my real estate empire. Let me go help these folks sell some stuff, right?
And you are lucky your kids sleep in, because as soon as I wake up early, my kids wake up. It's just
Ah.
like, I've tried 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Well, maybe 5 a.m. they sleep in, but 6 a.m. they are awake.
We are very fortunate. They're not of school age yet. And but we're gonna tackle that here pretty soon, this coming year actually. And so they go to bed kind of late. So there is a little bit of that too. So
Right.
yeah.
All right. What's the third tip?
Let me think. Let me. So the third tip, outsource, right? Is don't think you have to go into this and you're going to be a property manager. Just make sure when you write up your criteria for a deal that you have a property manager expense in there. And as you're focused on being, present for your family and still focused on your W-2, you don't need to worry about all the other stuff, right? You're looking to buy a physical asset that can just send you that mailbox money every month, right? And to be able to do that, you need to outsource. And this comes back to something I said earlier, is the moment we had that first property ready to rent, it rented. Now, where we didn't, and this is, so I'm making this tip coming from experience, is because when we bought that house, our very first house, our first kid was 3 weeks old, and we thought, all right, we're gonna be able to do all this stuff ourselves, blah blah blah, and then we didn't know what we didn't know, right? You have your first kid, you think, it's no big deal. No, nobody, not a lot of people were could explain to us what was going to happen.
Nobody told you, like, are you crazy? What are you doing? You are having a child.
Yeah. So he came in October, right? And the plan was to spend nights and weekends over there. And I don't know if you're seeing this, but he's flicking the light on and off right now outside the office.
I am.
And so he came in October, and then the house wasn't ready until February.
Oh,
So
wow.
after we did all this and we saw how easy it was to rent, I went back and did the calculations, right? And we missed out on essentially 4 to 5 months of rent. And so around $2,400. And I went back and looked at some of the contractor quotes that we received. It was around $2,400 a month. It was a little less actually. So we actually cut ourselves out of some income because of
and then you did the work, so you spend your time on it.
Yes, our time. And and it wasn't in the best of neighborhoods. Now, I said it was an up and coming neighborhood. I was quite frankly, I was scared to go over there because right across the street it was a drug house. And fast forward when we sold it, right, that drug house had been plowed down and somebody built a beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bath home on there that sold for around $150,000. I mean, it was just, so it was up and coming, and it kind of progressed, right? And then the bonus tip I have for you is the bonus tip is get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And that's what we focus on the mastermind. Is I'm a firm believer that growth happens outside your comfort zone, and most people who are in their W-2 job, who are focused on this and want to start getting into real estate investing, most of them don't find that courage to take the action that we're talking about because they already are uncomfortable, right? And you need to, if you want to really focus on this and start building some let's forget about legacy wealth for a minute. Let's just talk about some additional streams of income, right? You're going to get uncomfortable, and you need to get comfortable with that feeling. I actually, I have now trained myself that when I know that feeling is coming, there's something I need to do right then. And that's pretty fun to see. It's also kind of scary, but it's pretty fun to see.
Yeah. I think somebody told me, like, don't you get scared? I'm like, yes, all the time. Like, it's not fun to do new things that you don't know what's going to happen, or put yourself out there. We were talking about this. You asked me, are you going to do a podcast? And I was like, no, like, there's no way I'm going to do that. Like, I'm not, I don't want to put the time. I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to be in front of a camera. And now 1 year.
Now look at you. Yeah. You're hosting mastermind calls. You're doing Facebook lives. You're doing all this stuff. You're growing. It's awesome. It really has been incredible to see, honestly.
And, I highly recommend your mastermind. It just keeps me accountable and keeps me motivated. Like, sometimes I get to the call and I'm like, guys, I am so happy I'm here today. I'm so happy the call is today, because I was starting to feel going down, like, my energy. And then after the call, it's like I'm again ready to go.
Yeah. And we talk about this all the time because one of the calls is on Tuesday nights, and I love that call, but I hate it too because we end up ending
super pumped. Like, let's go do it.
well, we end up ending it super pumped, but it's like 10, 11 o'clock at night. It's already past my bedtime. And I'm like, what, how do we change this? But it's all good. It's all good.
We love it.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure to have you on the call today and on my show. Thank you so much, Jay. I really look up to you and I follow you. everything you do, I'm like, oh, how did he,
Ah!
look at what he did.
That's I'm blushing. I don't know if you can see that. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
Anyways, thank you so much before I forget, where can people find you? What's your website? What's your mastermind? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so you can find all that at w2capitalist.com. There's link to the mastermind information. There's link to the community, which is essentially right now is a Facebook group where, the community's grown. I think we're close to 7,000 members in it. Here's something I'm starting to do this year. You talk about getting uncomfortable. I'm giving out my number, right? So if anybody has questions, the best thing to do is text. But text me. You can text me at 850-610-0966.
That's awesome. I'm going to be calling you now.
Yeah, you have my number anyway.
I already have your number. I screen my calls, so I wouldn't give my number away because if I don't know the number, I don't respond. I wait for the message.
Yeah. I understand. That's the same with me too. So if you get that, you might want to turn around and call again, right? Or text again. So.
Correct. Thank you so much, Jay. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Annette. I've enjoyed it.
This was Deal Closers with Anette Talie, brought to you by Talie Investments. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Our goal is to provide amazing value on your real estate journey. Connect online at www.talieinvestments.com, where you can find this episode and more. Did you like this episode? Subscribe, like, and share.